All right, we'll get this show on the road and call this meeting to order, starting with the determination of the quorum. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, we have 5 board members present and 2 absent, so we do have a quorum.
All right, rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item is to approve the agenda. It was suggested prior to the, before we started here, to move a couple of items around. Items 11, B, and C, we have a number of people here to talk to us about those items. And so we're going to, I'll suggest that we move those up, amend this agenda. So those are items 11, B, and C. Approve the proposed agreement between ISD 656 and Local 70 paraprofessionals, and approve Faribault High School Band and Orchestra Spring Trip, March 15th through 19th to Lincoln, Nebraska. We'll put those items after item 5 and before the consent agenda is my suggestion. With that, I'm also informed, I'll just let everyone know ahead of time, that for our audit report, our auditor is trying to make it to 2 board meetings tonight, and is currently on the road on her way to be here with us. My suggestion was that if we get to that point, and she has not yet arrived, that we will table that motion, or table that item until such time as she arrives tonight, so that we should still be able to do this tonight. But we can wait a little bit to move the agenda around a little bit if it's needed when we get there. But maybe not to do that at this moment, just in case she gets here ahead of time. Anyway, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
We can't hear back here. I don't know if it's the mic or the...
The microphone's on.
Yeah, you have to put your mouth pretty close to the mics. It's hard to hear the back.
We'll do our best. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. First on the agenda is a recognition and awards. Item 3, we have a recognition of the Lions Club of Faribault for some dictionary donations, and I believe we have some representatives of the Lions Clubs. If you would like to come forward and tell us a little bit about the donation, we'd appreciate that.
Good evening. We are the Faribault Lions Club. I'm Otto Luknick, chairman of the Dictionary Project, and I'd like to thank the board for taking the time to recognize us as Lions in Faribault, and we will be talking briefly about Lionism and the project itself. And thank you too, Todd, for sending a nice letter on behalf of the board to us, thanking us for the donation. With us tonight, we have Debbie Wasserman, our current president and former district governor and international board director. Well, she was one of 4 from the United States to serve in that capacity. Her husband, Steve Wasserman, is our secretary, and he will speak about the various projects that we have during the year. And last but not least, John Battles, a former president of our club, and aggressive lion in all the projects. You can always count on him. Aggressive lion. With that, Lion, Debbie Wasserman, would you like to speak about Lionism, please?
Echoing what Lion Otto said on behalf of the club, I want to also express our thanks for your allowing us to give a gift of dictionary to students in Faribault. We very much appreciate getting to do that. The Faribault Lions Club is one of 46,000 clubs in 208 countries and geographic areas around the world. There are about 1.3 million men and women who are members of these Lions clubs. Our association goes back to 1917 when it was started by a businessman in Chicago. In 1925, Helen Keller spoke to a Lions International Convention and challenged the Lions to become Knights of the Blind in a crusade against darkness. So working in the area of reversing or preventing blindness is really the quintessential mission of Lions clubs. Over our 95 years of existence, we continue that mission, but we also have expanded into our work into areas of hearing impairment. Every child, every baby born in Minnesota has their hearing screened before they leave the hospital. That was an effort championed by Lions of Minnesota in the 1990s. We also work with youth, which is why we give out the dictionaries. We also work in the environment, disaster relief. Lions were some of the very first people to arrive on the East Coast when Superstorm Sandy hit. One of the things we say that in working in disaster areas, Lions are among the first to arrive and among the very last to leave. That's a very important part of what we do. So Lionism is big and embracing, but we also think in our clubs that we need to act locally and think globally. So Lion Steve is going to tell you a little bit about some of the ways that our club acts locally.
Thank you, Lion Deborah. And thank you for moving us up on the agenda. We do have a board meeting tonight ourselves, so we appreciate being able to go first and then move on. As Deborah said, we do focus locally on youth and also on the blind. We have a lot of projects that we've done in conjunction with the School for the Blind and the School for the Deaf, and now with the Faribault Public Schools. We are thrilled to be able to present these dictionaries. We have also been partnering with the Faribault Emeralds on some of our fundraising projects and have donated several years now consistently to them to help them out. One other local project that we have that might be of interest to you is what we call the Peace Poster Contest. Lions are very interested in promoting mutual understanding in among the nations of the world. And every year we have a peace poster contest where students in grades 6, 7, and 8, thank you, draw their concept of peace. It has a theme. This year's theme was Imagine Peace. And we have collected peace posters. We would like to get more peace posters. We haven't really been able to work with the public schools, with the middle school lately. But we'd sure be eager to do that if we could. It's an international program. Students from all over the world participate. They're judged at the local level, then they're judged at the district level, the state level, and on to the international level. So we're very pleased to be able to offer that program as well.
Hi, John.
I'm John Battles, probably the oldest Lion here. I've been in the club about 36 years. We were doing a lot of work in these projects, and I just mentioned these are the 2 dictionaries we passed out to the 3rd graders. And I think Deborah said that we've had passed out 3,000 in the last 7 years. And this goes to all the public schools, to Divine Mercy, to Lutheran schools, to Action Nurse Strand, so we get in STEM schools. So it is a thrill kind of passing them out, because we tell the kids, they put their name in it right away. And you get to take this home with you at the end of the year, but the teachers all say, well, you got to keep it here during the year so we can go over it. And it's amazing. Kids will come back and their brother or their sister, yeah, we got that 3 years ago. We'll see them in the hall or something. We got that 4 or 5 years ago. We remember. So it's really a worthwhile project. That's all I got to say.
I might add one more thing. The money that we raise, all the money that we raise from the public, goes into projects such as the dictionary project. It all is returned to the community or our other causes nationally and internationally. The Faribault Lions Club has an annual fundraiser on Super Bowl Sunday. We've been doing it for 47 years, as long as there have been Super Bowls. We claim that they named the Super Bowl after our pancake breakfast, because when we started the pancake breakfast, it wasn't called the Super Bowl. So we would like to invite you all to attend our pancake breakfast on February 3rd. It's Super Bowl Sunday, so it's easy to remember. But that is our major fundraiser of the year, and that's where we get much of the money that we use to be able to donate these dictionaries. Thank you.
In closing, I would like to mention too that several years ago we twinned with the Lions Club in Piešťany, Slovakia. And every time I go back, I have a chance to visit with the club. And this year was no exception. I just got back from Europe, Slovakia last week. And we had a real nice 2 or 3 days together with the club. I did, anyway. And so it's an international effort. Lionism word is spread in over 200 countries, like Lion Deborah mentioned. And we in Faribault are part of that big family. And we're proud of it. Just think, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, Slovakia was under communism, and now they're helping each other like you wouldn't believe. They have 18 members, and 2 or 3 speak English fluently, but otherwise, they speak a different language, but we have the same goal in common, and that is we serve. So thank you again for having us, and good luck with your school year.
Thank you.
Well, they weren't kidding, they have another meeting. They didn't even stay long enough to get thanked. On behalf of the entire school district and the school board, I just want to say how much we appreciate this project every year. And so on your way out the door, thank you guys very much for this effort. All right, next on our agenda is community comment. This is a time for members of the community to step forward and share any items with the school board that they would like to share at this meeting. There is a 3-minute time limit per speaker and a 15-minute limit per topic. I'll mention, as I have been recently, that the one rule that I want to make sure that we follow is that any comments must refrain from making any disparaging comments towards any individual related to the schools, and that includes any school board members or any employees of the district. If that happens, I will end comments at that time, and you will not be allowed to finish your comments. So, and as I'm sure some can tell you, I haven't been very forgiving in that recently. So, please help us make sure we keep this a positive discussion. So with that, any community comments at this time?
Hi, my name is Caitlin Slonik. I want to bring up the topic about orchestra next year. I still remember the day when we were in 3rd grade and they brought in the band and orchestra instruments, and I picked up a violin and I didn't even consider any other instrument. And ever since then I've been playing, and I still have very fond memories of it. And throughout the years, the most connection I've made with a teacher is my orchestra teachers, with Miss Olson, Miss Wassink, Mr. Wind, and my new teacher. And I think it would be a really big shame if it got cut, because it really brought out confidence in me. And it gives me one thing to be proud of. Even after I quit sports, I still had this. And then when you tell people that you play the violin, they show you a different kind of respect, and I believe that a lot of kids benefit from it, because it takes them away at least 1 hour of the day where they have something to do that they enjoy, instead of going to math and science, which most kids don't enjoy. And I hate those classes, so if I can look forward to at least one class that I can do something that's enjoyable, then it makes my day a lot easier. And I really enjoy the students in my classes, and I feel like I made more friendships with people I don't think I would ever have talked to before in my orchestra than I would have out of orchestra. And last year, I'm wearing my Big 9 t-shirt. We held it at the high school, and I had a lot of fun there, and it made me feel more pride in my school that we could hold it there. So if you guys could figure something out, or listen, open your ears, and find out a way to help us out, that'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm Peggy Ployer. I just have a story to share with you this evening, kind of in light of, it's Thanksgiving week, and kind of in light of just how things have happened and transpired over these last months. But just bear with me. It's about Itzhak Perlman, and it probably is an urban legend, but I think it has a lot of information to share with us, and a story that will convey maybe something to take to heart. One evening, Perlman was in New York to give a concert. As a child, he was stricken with polio, and so getting on stage was no small feat for him. He wore braces on both legs and walked with crutches. As soon as he appeared on stage that night, the audience applauded and waited respectfully as he made his way slowly to his seat. He took his seat, signaled the conductor, and began. No sooner had he finished the first few bars than one of the strings of his violin snapped. At that point, Perlman reasonably could have brought the concert to a halt, replaced his string, and started again. But that's not what he did. He waited for a moment, signaled the conductor, and picked up where they had left off. Perlman now had only 3 strings with which to play his solo. He was able to find some of the missing notes on adjoining strings, but all weren't possible to find, so he had to fill in the rest with his ingenuity. He played with passion and artistry, spontaneously rearranging the symphony right through to the end. When he finally rested his bow, the audience sat for a moment stunned in silence. Then they rose to their feet and cheered wildly. They knew they had been a witness to an extraordinary display of human skill and ingenuity. Perlman raised his bow to signal quiet. You know, he said, it's the artist's task to make beautiful music with what you have left. I have to ask you, what are you left to ponder from the words supposedly spoken by this man? Were the words he uttered speaking to you of his violin strings or his crippled body? Also, do you feel that his wisdom conveyed is beneficial only for those who have disabled bodies, or less than perfect instruments for which they must eke out beautiful symphony masterpieces? The fact of the matter is we all are imperfect, and we all lack perfect resources to accomplish what we still are challenged to do. But if we spend all of our time trying to fix the broken instrument or body instead of moving ahead with the drive to make something greatly beautiful out of what we've been given, are we really accomplishing anything? I realize the levy that most of you hoped for to further fund the Faribault Public Schools did not pass. There's been a lot of hurt feelings in this room, and there's been a lot of finger pointing from all sides as the battle waged. But the fight is over, and it's to accomplish the task ahead that's to prove quality education for the kids in our district. It means the community has to determine I'll go back. The task ahead is to provide quality education for the children in our district within the means the community has determined. None of us can continue to put up walls to create division and try to prove or disprove the point that more money is the solution to all of our problems. Trying to belabor any longer the point that the instrument is broken will accomplish nothing. Also, blaming one person or another about their role on one side or the other is a moot point. Our schools must continue to meet the needs of the children, and the creativity and ingenuity of this board and district must be at the forefront of your agenda to make that happen. Gratefulness and thanksgiving are the beginning of being able to see beyond what we don't have into something that we can accomplish. A good point to consider on this week of Thanksgiving. The words I leave you with tonight as you start this meeting are this: vote on the agenda tasks at hand with the understanding that the community voted the way they did not because they don't see education as a quality investment, but because they're watching to see if this district and this board is skilled enough to see beyond their own differences and personal preferences and still work towards something beautiful for the children. You have the ability to play a masterpiece, you all together, to do something wonderful, but you must be willing to move forward and focus on the beauty that can still be created for the kids with grateful hearts and understanding that each member of this board brings unique and wonderful insights and ideas on how the skilled teachers, the concerned parents, the supportive community, the ample resources, and the wonderful programs that are still in place can be used to make something that might now seem impossible possible. Thank you.
Any other comments this evening?
I'm sorry I don't have anything nicely written, but I do want to.
I'm sorry, just before I forget, would you mind stating your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Chris Lemieux, teacher in the district. I do want to share my disappointment in the outcome of the levy. There are going to be, no matter how creative we become, there's going to be a lot of changes coming, And I do hope that people come out to the schools and see what's happening and see just how many bodies there will be in classrooms and the hardship of trying to get around to each child and giving them the time that they deserve. I do wish I was a little bit more prepared, but I do think that we have to remember that this isn't just about the dollars, and that this is about children in the classroom. This is about the kids and their future. And I want that to be remembered.
Other comments at this time? As you know, I'm always trying to be patient at this time, just in case there's anyone working up their courage to step forward. So I'll give it just a second longer, see if anyone comes forward.
Hi, my name's Katie Hennessy, and I am a local business owner and the mother of 2 children in the K through 12 program, and I think they have gotten a very good education. But I am a little concerned with some of the programs that are going to be cut. In particular, the music program is going to be decimated, and I find that particularly important to many, many of the children. So my question for you, particularly as being the head of the board, what do you see us as having options as far as parents go to be involved to try and advocate for these programs for the kids?
Sorry, this is not typically a question and answer period, so I would be happy to discuss that with you afterwards.
Okay, all right, thank you.
An important question that I'm not trying to avoid at all.
Okay.
Any other comments at this time?
Hello, my name is Daniel Wallach. I want to just take a couple of moments to mention I used to have kids in this district. I took a lot of pride in it, but I was concerned a couple of years ago about what I considered was instability in the district. I was tired of the cuts, the threats of cuts a couple of years ago, and it was orchestra, it was the arts, it was sports, and I made the personal decision to pull my kids from the district. My kids were high achievers. They blew every state average out of the water. And I communicated this to the board and to a superintendent at that time, and I was thoroughly dismissed. Arrogant it was. I still have the email coming back. So we made the decision that we're going to move our kids and hope that the district would behave in a manner that every 2 years it wouldn't be, we're going to cut sports, we're going to cut, orchestra. I'm sad to be here to report that we're back here again. What happened 2.5 years ago, it started again this time. I have no doubt if the levy would have passed, we'd be here in 2 more years. The board, in my view, has to make every decision in the best interest of the kids. And if that's like Owatonna, doing complete freezes, coming to the community first and saying, here's why we need these dollars. Here's why it makes sense. You get that authorization, then you spend the money. The kids get, say, in a buffer zone, they don't get played as a pawn. Because, I'm sorry if that seems odd, but it seems like they're paying the price. I've been reading what Dr. Grant, I believe he's a PhD, is talking about. I advocate that. Sell the program. I have a public relations degree. I'm a part of a board. Actually, I'm part of an organization in the state for school public relations people. I saw a lot of things I thought were a little bit baffling to me. I hope, however this turns out, that when I ask questions from a board member, from a administrator, like I attempted to do at the Faribault Daily News chat, I get a direct answer. I don't get an answer that goes that way when I'm asking this. I hope whatever path that this board chooses going forward has the best interest of the kids in their mind at all times. Thank you for listening.
Any other comments?
Good evening, board. My name is Anthony Edelston. I'm the orchestra teacher at the high school. This year is my first year here. Clearly, the result of the levy was a big disappointment for me and for my kids. Coming back to school on Wednesday was a tough thing for them. But I'm not going to stand here and tell you how great orchestra is, how great music is, because you know what that's all about. But I just want you to take into consideration, we're at a point in Minnesota right now, we're at a point where orchestra and the arts are, there's a lot of serious shortfalls, serious downfalls, and you look at the Minnesota Orchestra and St. Paul Chamber Orchestra, and there's serious problems, musicians are locked out. Clearly, things are not going very well, and I just hope that this board can look at the arts, go above what the standard is in most of Minnesota, and with those downfalls, and figure out something that can be fixed, because it's a great program, the kids are wonderful, and it needs to be something to stick around. So thank you for your time.
Any other comments?
Hello board, I'm Connors. I'm a junior at the high school this year. Everything that is affected by the levy I am enrolled in, such as NHS Student Council, Link Crew, and I also orchestra, and I performed in middle school sports, which are always also on the cuts. I think that kind of poor decisions on what's getting cut, because this affects many students and keeps a lot of students out of trouble as well. Gives them something to do. Like, my passion is orchestra and sports. Been involved in 3 sports in 7th grade. Been a 3-sport athlete, have a ton of scholarships going. And a lot of my scholarships can possibly go away because I won't have these opportunities next year. So this affects my future and generations. And we're the future, and we gotta have the same opportunities that you guys did. And it's not fair that we're getting this taken away from us. So if there's any possible way that you can save these programs, it'd be great. These would save generations. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Hi, I'm Nicole Lewis, and I represent I am a taxpayer in Faribault who would like to have seen the levy pass. I felt it was a necessity to the education of the students here in Faribault that funding was needed to continue to provide the programs that we had. These past couple weeks have been extremely hard in our household. I've had to witness my own children shed tears over the fear of what Chris was saying. They are fearful of the class sizes that they're going to endure next year. They are deeply saddened that they're going to have no orchestra program next year, no middle school sports, and the list can go on and on. To comment on Mr. Wallach, which I respect what he had to say. However, to some people who feel that way, we're at 385 per pupil for a levy when the state average is at 900. I just don't understand how people could expect a board to not have to make cuts when you're at that low of funding. However, I do have confidence in you as a board that you will make decisions based on the best interest of the students in our school. And I do have confidence that this community will at some point realize an increase in our levy is a necessity. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Travis McCall. I'm a resident here in Faribault. I've heard a lot of people talk about how horrible it is for all these projects to get cut. And I gotta tell you, when I went to high school in California, we've been through a bunch of things out there. I was involved in the marching band, played sports. Both of those things, everybody was given an opportunity to participate, but it wasn't paid for by the school. For instance, the band was completely funded by newspaper recycling. Poway Unified School District Band is the #2 recycler of newspaper in the state of California. #1 was the US Navy. There are ways. I don't understand why we've made the decision, or it appears that we've made the decision as a parent. My daughter's in orchestra. How much does that cost per student? Is there an opportunity for us to raise some money in another manner so that those children that want to participate and those parents that feel it's important can work towards getting it, as opposed to just saying, nope, we can't do it? Thank you.
Other comments at this time?
Hi, I'm Deb Sloan. Y'all know me by now. I just have a comment. I was wondering about administration and HR cuts. If there's going to be 29 teachers cut, do we need HR staff up that high? Do we need administration staff up that high? Is there other cuts that we can make so that it goes towards the children? Because it seems to me all the cuts are for the children. Against the children, I should say. And yes, I was the one who, didn't want the levy, but I do think that the children should come first over other things. And I hope that you take that into consideration, that the children should come first. And the taxpayers are the bosses of all of you, because we are the ones who fund the programs. And that I hope that you can figure something out so that we can save a program, a teacher, anything, because these other places are going to be overly staffed if you're cutting that much staff. So I hope that you consider that within your cuts to help the kids out.
Other comments at this time? I'll give it just a little bit more. Anybody's working up the courage? Okay. Thank you all very much for your comments. They are heard and appreciated by this board. I certainly would encourage anyone, if they have any questions, to contact the board. I promise a reply. Email in particular works really well to reach all of us. And I'd be happy to discuss these items with any concerned community member. Next on the agenda is another difficult topic. We, at our last meeting, had an agenda item to look at some of the comments that had been made. We're moving now on to item number 5 by our board member, Richard Olson, and expressed some concern that perhaps some of the comments that have been made in the paper through letters to the editor or in advertisements might have violated district policy. It was a debate on my part about whether or not to put this item on the agenda. It has been a balancing act that I have struggled with. I agree completely that it is time to move forward and to find the best path for our district, considering the situation that we are in. And I'm trying to balance that with accountability for actions taken by board members. I am not sure that I know what the perfect answer on this is, but I think that there is some level in which when comments are made publicly related to this, that at the very least they should be discussed by the board and talked about. To my mind, the only way that you move forward is when you discuss topics, not when you sweep them under the rug. There's a lot of animosity, a lot of hurt feelings related to these specific comments. They involve one board member discussing other board members, and therefore I think deserve a place at this meeting. My hope is that through this discussion tonight we can find a path forward in the best way possible. So last meeting, you may recall, I expressed the concerns that policy could have been violated, and sought out the opinion of the board of whether or not we should ask our legal counsel for advice on these matters. The opinion expressed by the board was that we should, and so I instructed Superintendent Sesker to talk to our legal counsel and find out what the legal ramifications are of any actions that could be taken by this board or otherwise. And so I want to start by updating the board on what that legal counsel was, and getting a feel from the board on what might be the best way forward in this matter. So there are essentially three issues related to the comments made by Mr. Olson. Within those comments are comments that could be considered disparaging of other board members. In particular, there was an advocating for two other board members not to be reelected.
Mr. Chair, I wonder, can I ask you a question? Do you believe in the Constitution?
Yes, I do, Mr. Olson, and I'm coming to that issue in just one second.
And then also, do you believe in the freedom of speech?
I do, and I'm coming to that in 1 second, if you'll let me continue.
Because today I had a meeting with MSBA, that's our organization that we all belong to, and basically what they advised me to do is not to say anything and to let things just lie. Let's heal the district.
Okay.
And let's go on. In fact, some people already said that. Let's move ahead.
I understand that, Mr.
The
Olson,
vote has been, the vote's been
Mr. Olson,
taken. The
hold on 1
vote's-
second, okay?
The vote's been taken. The people have spoke.
Mr. Olson, let me. At the last meeting, the board members asked for legal counsel on these matters.
And then why
And
are
I'm
we
going to
wasting
report-
time on this?
Mr. Olson, I'm going to report.
Could we
Mr.
talk
Olson,
about?
you're speaking out of order at this time. I'm gonna ask you to stop
Okay,
speaking. I will give you an opportunity to speak
Do you
in a
think that
minute.
we should be talking about student achievement?
Mr. Olson, you will have a time to speak, I
Do you think we
promise
should
you.
be talking about student achievement
I
at
think
this
we
time?
should, Mr. Olson, you will have your
Do
opportunity
you
to
think
speak.
we should be talking about, I can keep this forever, keep going.
Mr. Olson, I'm gonna keep going,
Okay, then,
okay?
can we talk about student achievement? Is that really important here with the district? Yes or no? Yes or no?
You're speaking out of order, and there is a time at which I will ask you to be removed from this meeting if you will not continue to speak out of order. I want to be clear on this. This is a board meeting, and I determine who is speaking in order and out of order, and I will ask you to leave if you do not let this meeting continue in order. I'm quite certain that this is not the advice you received from MSBA.
MSBA's.
I will ask you to be removed, Mr. Olson. Do you understand? I am not joking. You are gonna allow this meeting to continue.
Continue.
Thank
Continue
you.
then. Thank you.
So, there was concern about disparaging comments made of board members. There was concern about comments made that were not in support of previous board decisions. And there was concern about whether or not some of the statements made at that time were inaccurate. And so we asked legal counsel to reflect on those and give us advice on what action could or perhaps should be taken on those matters. On the issue of disparaging comments, the legal counsel did in fact think that there were grounds for that. Censure on those grounds would not violate anyone's First Amendment rights. This does not mean that this is an action we should take or that they advised we take, merely that they thought there was a legal case for doing so. On the grounds of making unsupporting comments to the board about unsupporting comments of previous board decisions, their advice was that First Amendment rights likely protect any board member to make such comments, and that pursuing a censure on those grounds had a significant chance of embroiling the district in a legal battle over this matter, and they certainly had advice that that was probably not a path we wanted to take. On the issue of inaccurate statements, again, First Amendment rights seem to be protective of that. Their advice was that if the board had an interest in pursuing whether or not some of the statements made were accurate or not, that could be brought to the Fair Campaign Board, an independent board whose job it is to look at campaign literature and decide if it is accurate and factual, and render an independent opinion on whether or not that is the case. So that is the legal opinion given to us on these matters. So at this time I seek advice from this board on how we want to pursue. I think I will start by stating that though I was one of those members about who disparaging comments were made, I am not interested in continuing that fight and that battle. And my personal opinion is that we allow that matter to go. On the issue of inaccurate statements in the literature and whether or not we want to make a report to the Fair Campaign Board, I have had personally mixed feelings on this item, whether or not we should do that. I am leaning towards at this time a feeling that in fact we should not, that we should continue on. Although I have major concerns about many of the items that were stated being inaccurate, I think it is completely fair when a board member makes these comments in public that these comments be discussed by the board publicly. I think to claim that it is not worthwhile to have these comments perhaps should have been thought of before they were put in the newspaper. Once they were put in the newspaper, it apparently was important for them to be discussed. However, I do not think they rise to the level that I want to take any legal action personally, or to ask the Fair Campaign Board to investigate these items. I would prefer that the district be able to move on. So those are my thoughts on this matter, as well as the legal advice we have been given. So I look at this time to thoughts from the board on whether or not action perhaps should be taken. If the board would like to discuss any of these items brought up in the campaign literature, we are certainly well within our rights to do so, and to mention any questions that we would like to about them. And so I open this up to the board for its discussion.
Let's hear from Mr. Olson.
Everything I put in the papers is true, but with talking to MSBA, basically we need to heal. That's their advice to me, and I agree with that. That it's time to move on. The vote's been taken, and let's just move on and let's deal with the problems we've got.
Well, I would say, to respond to that, that one of the problems is a trust issue right now on this board. And it's a trust issue related to your relationship with the board, Mr. Olson. When this board has discussions on items and items come up, in a minor way, and I'm going to mention the administrators at this time. It was brought up in a discussion. I don't think it got more than 3 or 4 sentences. And then that was then thrown at this board as a reason to not support the levy because it became a plan of this board to hire 5 new administrators. This to me raises a trust issue. As a board member, I like to think that I can speak freely, that I can throw out ideas. They may not become part of a plan, they may not become something we do. That certainly is the case of the 5 administrators. We voted on that plan. We had a plan in place for what would be hired. There was no mention of administrators in that plan. Every single place we would put a hire was in a plan. It was voted on by this board. And yet somehow that became a plan to hire 5 administrators brought to the public. It makes it very difficult for me to move forward on a basis of trust in that situation. And that's where I struggle and where I would like to simply move on, but I'm not sure how to do that in an environment where I'm not sure if I can trust other board members to show respect to comments I make and not use them to throw back at me in the future.
Mr. Chair, MSBA does have a service that they do council boards. So that service is available through MSBA.
It's excellent to know.
Okay, I'll speak on this. I want to make something clear, first of all, for me. This is not about stifling Mr. Olson's freedom of speech. It's more about misconduct. And let me just give you an example. When Mr. Olson puts an ad in the paper and he says the middle class and the poor are struggling to get by, higher real estate taxes will raise house payments and rent and put less money in everyone's pockets for necessary family needs, that's an opinion. And he has a right to express that. When Mr. Olson says that our board members are liberal spend and tax people, that's his opinion, he has a right to express it. What I have a trouble with is giving out wrong information or misleading information. For example, runs an ad, says filing of union grievances, more legal expenses. We haven't had any grievances for the last 2 years. That's just one example, and I could give you 10, 15 of them. And giving out misleading information with the intent to convince voters to vote against the levy that the rest of the board has approved and we have a committee working hard to pass, in my opinion, is misconduct. In addition to that, castigating other board members as well as our superintendent is being irresponsible tax and spend liberals, even though it's an opinion, I think is clearly a violation of board policy. But even more importantly, it creates unwarranted doubts in people's minds about how well this school district is being managed and destroys the public trust in our board and in our administrative staff, who, by the way, have gone to great lengths to be accurate and open in presenting the real facts surrounding the need for the levy. And that's also true of our Vote Yes committee. When I consider that if 93 voters would have voted yes instead of no, this levy would have passed. Hardly a mandate. I have to wonder how many votes were swayed by Mr. Olson's incorrect data, muddying of the facts around the expenditures of the district, and malicious comments about the rest of the board. Someone somewhere must always pay the penalty for misconduct. Unfortunately, almost every student in our schools is going to suffer from the failure of this levy. In addition, parents are going to suffer because they're going to have more activity fees, more fundraisers, fewer options for their kids, and larger class sizes. The poorest of our students who need the most help are likely to suffer the most. And I personally feel especially sorry for the 25 young people who chose teaching as a profession, who were working so hard with our kids that now we're going to have to cut. And heaven only knows what negative impact the failure of this levy will have on community development. As I see these changes happen in the next few months, I'll be thinking about how it may have been different if it had not been for Mr. Olson's misconduct. I'd be in favor of submitting his ads and his editorials and his vote no literature to the election board. And it's not about stifling Mr. Olson's free speech, but it's about keeping him from expressing facts that are not accurate. And I think we need to serve notice to future board members that we cannot abide somebody on this board who's not going to be truthful and honest with the public and operate with integrity as a board member. There's just too much at stake to allow that sort of behavior from a board member without censure. In the private sector, he would have been warned and removed. This is not the private sector, but it does not mean we should ignore the misconduct of a board member. However, that being said, Mr. Chairman, I'd be willing to go along with trying to move on. But it's hard to move on when you have this kind of mistrust.
Other comments from the board?
I did not write anything up, but personally, I would like to move forward. We have some trust issues that we need to build on once again coming up, and see if there is a possibility to salvage everything that has happened to make our kids' lives better.
I'd like to second Mr. Bodie's words. He said it better than I could. I think our district is suffering from a trust issue. I think the board considered long and hard, and we're between a rock and a hard place in terms of the needs of students, the needs of staff, the needs of the program, and the needs of our citizens. We came up with what we thought was the best approach, to ask the citizens if they would support a levy. By about a 1% margin, they said no. And so now we will have to move forward, but that's going to be very difficult in a climate of mistrust between the citizens and what appears to be a 6-to-1 divided board, mistrust between elements of the vote yes and the vote no sides in the community. I am saddened by the level of mistrust, and it saddens me more that what appear to me to be inaccurate statements made by a member of this board have contributed to that sense of mistrust. I was tangentially mentioned in the board as making shameful fiscal decisions. Everyone has a right to their opinion, and I'll defend to the death the right to say it. But if saying so is sunk to the level of character assassination or something, then that's regretful, because it contributes to a climate of distrust, it contributes to a climate of division, and we as a community are facing difficult times and difficult choices. And I, as a member of this board, must put my name on actions that I would just as soon have avoided, that go against everything that my training and my experience lead me to support, that goes against everything that I know about good education in this community. But we must go forward. But not to have looked at, consider, and discuss the divisive actions, at least to the degree that they appear to be inaccurate and not follow the facts, I think we would be negligent. We have another election in 2 years. And how many of us are up for re-election at that point?
4.
4? The community will have its chance to vote again. I'm determined to do what I can to sustain and expand the quality of this district and the programs we offer to young people. I do not apologize for any of my past decisions, and I was elected by members of this community to use my best judgment, which I will continue to do. I wonder what's going to be said about me in 2 years. Doesn't matter. I'll let my actions speak for themselves. But I think that to deliberately, knowingly misrepresent things that were done or said is not contribute to the positive accomplishments of this board or this district. And it bothers me deeply.
I appreciate the comments of everyone on this board this evening, including you, Mr. Olson. This is a challenging time for the district, and the community deserves to have a board that is working together. I want to say something that I think is really critical. Mr. Casper used a phrase, a divided board, and I think I know how he intended that, but I want to rephrase that in a different light. I think we have an extremely united board. We have a board member in Mr. Olson who disagrees with us, as is his right, and is his right to express, both in votes and in words. While Mr. Olson was elected, so was I, and so were the other 6 members of this board. And for